Have you ever wondered how one woman's courage could change the course of history? Abigail, a woman of wisdom and strength, stepped in at a pivotal moment to prevent disaster and change the fate of Israel. In this video, we'll explore how her bold actions and unwavering faith in God altered the destiny of an entire nation. By watching, you'll gain insights into how Abigail's story challenges us to act with integrity, wisdom, and bravery in our own lives. How often do we find ourselves faced with moments where our decisions could either build or destroy? Abigail's story holds timeless lessons for anyone who wants to impact the world for good. Before we dive in, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support helps spread this powerful message to more people who need to hear it. Let's uncover the incredible legacy of Abigail together. Abigail was a woman of great wisdom and beauty, living in a challenging situation with her husband, Nabal. Nabal was a wealthy man who owned large flocks of sheep and goats, and they lived in the region of Carmel, a mountainous area. While Nabal was rich, he was also known for his foolishness and disrespect. His character was harsh, and he was not someone who respected others or showed kindness. Abigail, in contrast, was wise, intelligent, and deeply concerned for her household. Her marriage to Nabal was likely a difficult one, as she had to balance her husband's bad temper with her own desire to make wise and compassionate decisions. Nabal's wealth and land made him an important man in the region, but his lack of respect for others often put him at odds with those around him. His relationship with his wife, Abigail, would have been complex. She was in a position where she had to manage not only her household but also navigate the consequences of her husband's actions. Abigail's character is often seen as a contrast to Nabal's. While he acted out of selfishness and pride, Abigail acted with wisdom and grace, often making decisions that reflected her deeper understanding of what was right. The situation between Abigail's family and David, who was not yet king, began when David was in hiding from King Saul. David had been anointed as the future king of Israel, but Saul, the current king, was jealous and sought to kill him. As David fled from Saul's attacks, he found refuge in the wilderness with a group of men. During this time, David and his men were providing protection to the shepherds and flocks in the area, offering their services in exchange for food and supplies. When the time came, David sought help from Nabal, hoping that, given Nabal's wealth, he would be willing to assist him and his men. David sent his men to Nabal, asking for provisions as a sign of gratitude for the protection his men had given to Nabal's shepherds. David's request was reasonable, as he had been a protector of Nabal's property and had expected some hospitality in return. However, when Nabal's servants delivered the message, Nabal responded in a rude and dismissive manner. He insulted David, questioning his character and refusing to offer any help, even though David had done no wrong. Nabal's harsh response was not only an insult to David but also a dangerous act of disrespect, considering David's growing reputation. David, enraged by Nabal's insult, decided to take action. He gathered his men, preparing to attack Nabal's household as a way of avenging the insult and ensuring justice for the wrong done to him. The situation quickly escalated, and it looked like a violent confrontation was inevitable. This was a critical moment, and it seemed that the conflict between David and Nabal would end in tragedy for Nabal's family. It was in this moment of crisis that Abigail, Nabal's wife, intervened. When she learned of the conflict, she acted quickly and decisively. She knew the consequences of her husband's foolishness and understood the seriousness of the situation. With wisdom and courage, she decided to meet David before he could reach her household, hoping to prevent the bloodshed that seemed inevitable. Abigail's timely intervention would not only save her family but also change the course of events for everyone involved. When Abigail learned of the threat posed by David, she didn't hesitate for a moment. Upon hearing that David was preparing to attack her household after Nabal's refusal to help him, Abigail quickly realized the gravity of the situation. She knew that a disaster was imminent, one that could lead to the destruction of her family. Without wasting time, she took immediate action. Abigail gathered provisions, food, wine, and supplies, and set out to meet David and his men before they reached her home. This quick and decisive response showed her wisdom and courage, as she didn't allow fear or uncertainty to paralyze her. Abigail's actions were not only practical but also filled with humility. She could have waited for her husband to take responsibility, but knowing his character, she stepped up to face the situation herself. As she approached David and his men, she understood that her intervention was crucial to saving her family. Abigail, aware of the danger, took the initiative and went to meet David in the wilderness, determined to prevent a bloodbath. Her willingness to step in, despite the risk to her own safety, demonstrated not only courage but also her deep sense of responsibility and wisdom. As Abigail met David, she immediately humbled herself before him. She didn't approach him with anger or defiance but instead spoke with a tone of respect and grace. She fell on her face before him, acknowledging his authority and position as the future king of Israel. Abigail's humility in this moment was profound. She understood that David was not just a man on the run from Saul, but the anointed one of God, and she wanted to appeal to him not only as a man but as a future leader of Israel. Her recognition of his position set the stage for the powerful words she would speak. In her speech, Abigail displayed remarkable wisdom. She didn't just apologize for her husband's actions, she went beyond that, addressing the situation in a way that would appeal to David's sense of justice and future purpose. Abigail spoke with clarity and conviction, reminding David that he was destined for a higher role and that taking revenge would not align with God's plan for him. She warned him that killing Nabal would bring unnecessary bloodshed and shame upon him. She wisely pointed out that David would regret such an action later, as it would tarnish his reputation and his future reign. Abigail also appealed to David's sense of righteousness, telling him that God would fight for him, just as he had in the past. She encouraged David to trust in God's provision and justice, rather than taking matters into his own hands. By referencing God's will and reminding David of his divine calling, Abigail avoided a confrontation and offered a solution that preserved peace. She essentially redirected David's energy toward God's will, showing him that his future as king would be marred if he let anger guide his actions. David was deeply moved by Abigail's words. He recognized that her wisdom and intervention were not just coincidental but were part of a larger plan that God had for him. Her speech, which was filled with respect, humility, and an understanding of God's purposes, had the desired effect. David acknowledged her wisdom and spared Nabal's life. He even praised her for preventing him from committing a grave mistake. Abigail's courage, humility, and wisdom not only saved her family but also helped David avoid making a decision that would have damaged his future. Her quick thinking and bold action were crucial in turning what could have been a tragic outcome into a peaceful resolution. David was deeply moved by Abigail's intervention and the wisdom she displayed in saving her family. When she spoke to him, he recognized that her actions were not merely a matter of personal strategy, but a divine intervention. David understood that it was God who had sent Abigail to prevent him from committing a grievous act. In 1 Samuel 25 verses 32 to 33, David acknowledges that her timely approach and wise counsel spared him from taking revenge. He praises her for preventing him from shedding innocent blood and acknowledges that her actions were guided by God's hand. David's gratitude is evident as he blesses her and her household, realizing that she had been a key instrument in ensuring that he did not act in anger, which would have affected his future as Israel's leader. David's words of blessing were not just a simple expression of thanks but a recognition of Abigail's wisdom and the divine purpose behind her actions. He recognizes that God had used her to speak truth into a moment of potential chaos and violence. This recognition shows David's humility and ability to listen to wise counsel, even when it came from someone unexpected. Abigail's intervention not only saved her family from destruction, but also reminded David of the importance of trusting in God's plan and not allowing anger or revenge to dictate his actions. Thanks to Abigail's quick thinking and wisdom, the conflict that could have escalated into violence was avoided, and peace was restored. David, who had been on the verge of attacking Nabal's household, was able to turn away from his destructive path and, instead, embrace a more peaceful resolution. Abigail's actions prevented a war that could have torn apart the community and potentially led to more bloodshed. By acting as a peacemaker, she avoided a disaster that could have affected many people, including David and his men, and ensured that relationships were mended rather than destroyed. The peace Abigail brought was not just between her family and David, but also between David and his future as king. Had he gone through with his plans to destroy Nabal's house, it would have created a dark stain on his reputation and leadership. It would have been a violation of the values he was supposed to uphold as Israel's future king. Abigail's wisdom prevented David from making a decision that could have jeopardized his own destiny. Her actions allowed him to remain focused on God's plan for him rather than being distracted by the desire for revenge. Not only did Abigail's intervention save her family, but it also set an example for future generations about the power of wisdom, humility, and courage in the face of conflict. Her ability to act quickly, think wisely, and speak with grace allowed for a peaceful resolution in a situation that could have led to widespread violence. This moment in history teaches us about the importance of listening to wise counsel and the impact one person can have on preventing conflict and bringing peace in times of trouble. In the end, Abigail's actions proved to be a pivotal moment in the history of Israel. Not only did she save her family, but she also influenced David's leadership in a way that would resonate for years to come. Her intervention prevented a potential war, brought peace, and allowed for David to stay focused on his divine calling. Thanks to Abigail's wisdom and courage, a tragedy was averted, and a lasting peace was achieved, proving that one person's actions can indeed change the course of history. After the death of Nabal, Abigail's life took a dramatic turn. With Nabal's passing, Abigail's future became much brighter. In 1 Samuel 25 verse 39, we learn that God had honored Abigail's actions, and when she became a widow, David sent for her and asked her to become his wife. This was a significant change for Abigail, as she went from living with a foolish and disrespectful man to becoming the wife of the future king of Israel. This new marriage not only changed her personal circumstances, but also set her on a path that would intertwine her life with the future of Israel. Abigail's transformation from the wife of a wealthy but foolish man to the wife of a king was a testimony to God's favor. Despite the difficult circumstances she had faced with Nabal, Abigail's wisdom, courage, and faith had been recognized by God. Her intervention in the conflict with David showed her deep understanding of God's will, and now, as part of David's life, she would play a role in shaping the future of Israel. God had not only provided her with a new beginning, but had placed her in a position of influence within the kingdom. As the wife of David, Abigail became an important figure in his life and reign. She was not just a queen consort. Her wisdom and counsel likely influenced David's decisions during his reign. Throughout their marriage, Abigail would have witnessed firsthand the challenges David faced in uniting the kingdom and leading Israel. Her experience as a peacemaker, her intelligence, and her ability to act under pressure would have made her an invaluable advisor to David, helping him navigate the complexities of leadership. Abigail's influence extended beyond her marriage to David. She became a part of Israel's story, influencing its direction during a pivotal time in its history. David, as king, faced numerous challenges, from internal strife to external threats, and having someone as wise and level-headed as Abigail by his side would have been a great advantage. Her wisdom helped David remain focused on God's purpose for him as he united the tribes of Israel and established the kingdom. Through her actions, Abigail had already demonstrated her ability to change the course of events, and now, as David's wife, she continued to have an impact on the future of the nation. Abigail's legacy is not just tied to her marriage to David, but to her role in shaping Israel's history. By saving her family from destruction, she prevented a war that could have had devastating consequences. Her wisdom and intervention allowed David to stay on the path that God had set for him, ultimately leading to his reign as king. Abigail played a quiet but significant role in the unfolding story of Israel, influencing the choices of its future king and, by extension, the nation. In the end, Abigail's transformation was not just personal. It had a lasting effect on Israel's history. From a woman who faced the challenges of being married to a foolish man, she became a key figure in Israel's royal family. Her story reminds us that God can take any situation, no matter how difficult, and turn it around for His purpose. Abigail's life exemplifies how one person's actions can shape not only their own destiny but the destiny of an entire nation. Through her wisdom and faith, she made a lasting impact on the future of Israel and the reign of David. Abigail's legacy is a powerful reminder of how courage, wisdom, and faith can change the course of history. Her quick and wise intervention prevented a tragic conflict between David and Nabal's household, saving countless lives and avoiding a war. Not only did she save her family from destruction, but she also influenced the future of Israel by helping David stay true to his calling and avoid a mistake that could have stained his future reign. Abigail's actions showed that one person's faith and courage can make a difference in the larger picture of God's plan. Her story is one of courage under pressure. When faced with an overwhelming situation, she didn't shrink back but acted decisively, showing the importance of stepping up when the moment calls for it. Her wisdom in speaking to David and guiding him away from revenge was nothing short of remarkable. By recognizing the bigger picture of God's will for David's life, she saved her household and impacted Israel's history in a profound way. Abigail demonstrated that God often uses ordinary people to fulfill extraordinary purposes. Abigail's faith also played a key role in her actions. She trusted God's plan even when it seemed like everything was falling apart. Her belief that God was guiding the events of her life gave her the courage to take bold steps and make decisions that weren't easy but were necessary. This faith, combined with her wisdom and courage, allowed her to change her fate and the future of Israel. It shows us how trusting in God, especially during difficult moments, can help us navigate life's challenges and be part of a bigger purpose. As we reflect on Abigail's life, we are reminded that we too are called to act with wisdom, courage, and faith in our own lives. Like Abigail, we face moments when we must make difficult decisions that can impact not only our own future but the future of others. Whether it's standing up for what's right, speaking truth in difficult situations, or trusting God when the path ahead is unclear, we can learn from Abigail's example. She didn't wait for others to take action. She stepped forward and made a difference. Abigail's life encourages us to trust in God's guidance, knowing that He equips us with the wisdom and strength we need when facing tough situations. Her story shows us that we are never alone in the challenges we face. God is with us, providing us with the courage and faith we need to move forward. Like Abigail, we can be part of God's plan, making decisions that align with His will and trusting that He will lead us through any storm. If you've been inspired by Abigail's story, I encourage you to share this video with others who might find it meaningful. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on how we can apply Abigail's courage and wisdom in our own lives. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos that explore powerful lessons from the Bible. Just as Abigail's actions changed the course of history, our own steps of faith can make a lasting impact on those around us.